señorita, come on. Señor, come on. Vámonos a la deriva, deriva,
You see, in Spain, before the year 1555, there lived a people called Negroes. And guess what? They weren't African. It's a people the Apostle Paul spoke of in the book of Romans, chapter 15, verse 24 and 15:28. A people of the seed of David.
Let the Bible say what this wicked world decrees of people trodden down, who they always wanna keep beneath. But the time has come for all those in the world to see the chains being broken. Spirit, mind, soul set free. A Negro. I said, como esta to my Negroes. Praise the Most High, cause we's about to go. Once they found out more about these Negroes, said a Negro. I said, como esta to my Negroes. Praise the Most High, cause we's about to go. Once they found out more about these Negroes. In 1492, Ferdinand and Isabella issued an edict to expel the Jews. They were banished from Portugal, Spain, and for their faith they were treated inhumane. This kicked off the Atlantic slave trade. Our history they try to erase. This fulfilled Deuteronomy 28. Every single curse is black Hebrews living every day. We are hidden Hebrews and every nation. We are hidden Hebrews and every nation. Let the Papa see what this wicked world decrees of people trodden down, who they always wanna keep beneath. But the time has come for all those in the world to see the chains being broken. Spirit, mind, soul set free. A Negro. I said, como esta to my Negroes. Praise the Most High, cause we's about to go. Once they found out more about these Negroes, said a Negro. I said, como esta to my Negroes. Praise the Most High, cause we's about
Hebrew nation, the time has come. The time has come for the world to learn about the true history of the so-called Negro. The history of the Negro has been taught in schools and places of higher learning for centuries. It's a history which includes Africa, slavery, and places to which many of us have been scattered around the world. However, there's a reason why many schools and professors, historians, and researchers have an incomplete understanding of the true history of the Negro. And quite simply, it's because they don't include the laws or decrees issued by the kings who authorized and governed slavery. Many institutions fail to read a single decree by the King of Portugal and Spain, which is why this YouTube video, of all things, is more accurate, more factual than the pseudo-history taught in institutions of higher learning. In this video, we will do something for the first time in modern history in regards to the history of the Negro. We will read the laws and decrees of the kings and queen to see who they said they enslaved and to see what they said to do with them. To begin our journey, we'll go back in time to Portugal and Spain, to the year 1055 AD. So in roughly 1055 AD, there was a Jew born by the name of Yahya. Now, Yahya flourished in the 11th century in Portugal. An important note about Yahya is that Yahya was a descendant of the house of King David. He was a son of King Solomon himself. We can find references regarding Yahya's history in the Jewish Encyclopedia and other historical documents. The following reference shows each of Yahya's forefathers all the way back to King David. Like David, Yahya was a beast on the battlefield. The Bible says in 1 Samuel chapter 18 verse 7, and it reads, "And the women answered one another and played and said, Saul has slain his thousands, and David his 10,000s." So in the 11th century, Yahya teamed up with King Alfonso of Portugal against the Moors. And after defeating the Moors, the king of Portugal honored Yahya by giving him a territory called Aldeias dos Negros, or Village of the Negroes. And most importantly, he changed his name to Negro. And the following reference reads, and it reads, Yahya flourished in Lisbon in the 11th century, died about 1150 AD. He was held in high esteem among the Jews, and King Alfonso I honored him for his courage. After the conquest of Cimtarim, the king presented him with 2 country houses that had belonged to the Moors, wherefore he assumed the name Negro. And the next reference reads, and it reads, Yahya bin Rabbi was presented by Alfonso with a Moorish village and became known as Lord Aldea dos Negros, or Lord of the Village of the Negroes, or Dam Yahya of Negro. His son Yahya bin Yaish was born in Cordoba in 1110 or 1115. He also served Alfonso and was designated by the king as the first chief rabbi of Portugal, with his headquarters in Lisbon. And so the Yahyas became known as the Negroes, and they lived in a place called the Village of the Negroes. Now, keep in mind, these Negroes worked directly for the king of Portugal and Spain. In fact, they were placed as rulers over their brothers and sisters of Judah. They became the chief rabbis, royal tax collectors, and governors. It was because of their position and their deeds that the Yahya Negroes became famous throughout all of Spain, Portugal, Turkey, and Italy. They were prominent and renowned. As the following reference reads, and it reads, Dam Yahya Yaish, ancestor of the widely branching Yahya family, also tolerant, likewise Sancho's son, Alfonso II, who employed the Jews as farmers of taxes and as tax collectors. And the next reference reads, and it reads, he thereupon entered the service of Henry of Castile, who made him the head of the Jewish communities of his realm. Over the years, the king of Spain and Portugal fought each other over control of these famous Negroes. As the following reference reads, and it reads, after the death of the king, Leonor deposed Dom Judah and the Jewish collector of customs at Lisbon on the representations of the city deputies. But when she wished to have her daughter Beatrice and the latter's husband, John I of Castile, recognized as regents of the country, the people rebelled, killed Leonor's favorites, and proclaimed John vice-regent of the kingdom. Leonore fled, accompanied by her confidants, the above-mentioned Dom Judah and the wealthy Dom Dawid Negro Yahya. Disputes between her and John I of Castile, who waged war against Portugal, ended in an open breach on the occasion of the nomination to the head rabbinate of Castile. Leonore demanded the place for her favorite, Dom Judah, but the king, at the desire of his wife, appointed Dom Dawid Negro Yahya. Embittered by this, Leonore plotted against the life of her son-in-law, but her plan was frustrated by Dom Dawid Negro, and Leonore was banished to a convent in Tordesillas, and the life of Dom Judah was spared on the plea of Dom Dawid Negro. Now, notice how the word Negro and Yahya are used interchangeably. Yahya was synonymous with Negro, as the following reference reads, and it reads, Dawid and Judah, Negro. Or the next reference reads, Solomon ibn Yahya, Negro. It's fair to say everyone knew of the Negroes. In fact, if you were to board a time machine and go back to Spain and Portugal in the 1300s and 1400s and ask to see the Negroes, more than likely they would point you to a people with the last name of Negro who lived in the village of the Negroes and who looked like the modern day Negroes of today. And now, let's finally TKO the description of Spanish and Portuguese brews.
Right, left, do your right, left, uppercut. Right, left, do your right, left, uppercut.
According to the old references, Spanish and Portuguese Jews were described as black, swarthy, and brown.
Right, left, do your right, left, uppercut.
They're even described as being as black as the Bicaris of Africa,
Left, uppercut.
who look like the modern day Negroes today.
Right, left, uppercut. Right, left, do your right, left, uppercut. Right, left, do your right, left, uppercut. Uppercut. Right, left, do your right, left, uppercut.
The shape of the ancient skulls of the children of Judah in Lachish are dolichocephalic, which is the shape of the modern day Negro skull. And next, ancient monuments of the children of Yehuda shows that Yehuda has woolly royal Negro hair. And then DNA analysis shows that Negroes have a single forefather, such as Yaakov, unlike the Ashkenazi Jews of today. In fact, Ashkenaz is listed in the Bible as a descendant of Japhet, not Shem. Do you believe your Bible or man? And then finally, the term Semitic refers to a descendant of Shem or a descendant of someone who speaks an Afro-Asiatic language. Family, what does it mean when the word Afro is placed in front of a word? It means that they're Negro. Let's not be extra, family. Family, this match is over.
Right, left, do your right, left, uppercut. Right, left, do your right, left, uppercut.
And now, let's review what we've learned so far. We learned that there were Jews called Negroes living in Spain and Portugal in the 1100s AD. and that these Negroes were the sons of King Dawid, and that they were a group within the Spanish and Portuguese Jews, and that these royal Negro sons of King Dawid were famous, spreading throughout Spain and Portugal, and eventually into Africa. Persecuted, murdered, and enslaved, and driven to the four corners of the earth. The identity of these sons of King Dawid was hidden from the world. That is, until now. From Yaya to Negro to the village of the Negroes, to the chief rabbis, to governors of Spain and Portuguese brews, to the Great Expulsion in 1492. After Spain conquered the city of Granada, the king and queen of Spain told all the Jews to convert to Christianity, get out, or die. Many of these brews fled directly into Africa. In fact, the exodus of hundreds of thousands of brews from Spain had created such a stir in Europe that the harbors of Spain were crowded with ships ready to carry them to Africa and other destinations. As the following reference reads, and it reads, the Spanish Jews had made such widespread repute, and their expulsion had made so much stir in Europe, that crowds of ships were ready in Spanish seaports to take up the wanderers and convey them to all parts, not only the ships of the country, but also Italian vessels from Genoa and Venice. And the next reference reads, the northern coast of Africa and the inhabitable regions inland were full of Jews of Spanish descent. It's important to know that this mass exodus of the house of Judah from Spain involved 400 to 800,000 black brews. In other words, the number of black brews leaving Spain less than 10 years before the start of the transatlantic slave trade was enough to fill this college football stadium 8 times over. You can see why this was an exodus of biblical proportions, followed by a slavery of biblical proportions. These black brews would go on to play a pivotal role in history. In the Bible, they were spoken of by Jeremiah the prophet and the Apostle Paul, or Shaul. That's right, even the Apostle Paul visited these black sons of King Dawid in Spain. Let's look at it this way. The Apostle Paul visited the very location of the transatlantic slave trade. Romans chapter 15, verse 24 reads, whensoever I make my journey into Spain, I will come to you, for I trust to see you in my journey, and to be brought on my way thither by you, if first I be somewhat filled with your company. Verse 28, when therefore I have performed this, and have sealed to them this fruit, I will come by you into Spain. Another important note is that the exodus of the Negroes from Spain wasn't a single event. Instead, it was a sustained event over many, many years. Indeed, the sons of Dawid had endured persecution after persecution by the hands of the Christians, until finally many fled Spain and Portugal for Africa. For the sons of King Dawid, this was their Christian nightmare. And so, some Negroes fled from Spain and went directly into North Africa. And from there, they moved deeper into the interior, past the Sahara Desert, and settled in a place called Negroland, also called Soudan, also called Lamland. And the sons of King Dawid had returned to the continent they left long, long ago. And indeed, the sons of King Dawid had returned. Now, let's review the different names of the sons of King Dawid. And for this, we will review a reference which shows the progression of King Dawid's son's name over the years. For example, we know that the Portuguese and Spanish Jews were once called Black Portuguese or Negro Portuguese. These were the children of the Jews who had fled into Portugal. And in particular, these were the Jews who fled from Spain in 1492 by way of the expulsion edict of King Ferdinand and Queen Isabel. And then last but not least, we see these Black Portuguese Jews descended from Negroes. It goes from Black Portuguese to Jews to Spanish Jews to Negroes. Who were the Negroes in 1492? Who were the Negroes called Black Portuguese? Who were the Negroes called Jews and were later expelled to Africa? Answer: these were the descendants of Yahya, the sons and daughters of King Dawid. Let's take a closer look at the home of the Negroes in Africa called Negroland. The question is, where did the Negroes of Negroland come from? Let's see if we can find the answer. As the following reference reads, and it reads, the Negroes proceed from the Soudan or Negroland and are the objects of a lucrative trade. They are a degree higher as a caste here than in America. The imperial family or the royal family is mulatto, and the Moros de Rey are mostly black. At Tatum, Tangier, and other cities of the North Coast, there are still many Moorish families who speak Spanish and are descendants of those who were expelled after the capture of Granada, which is Spain. Now notice, these Negroes were expelled from Granada in 1492. The question would be, who lived in Granada in 1492? As the following reference reads, and it reads, King Alfonso, whence we may learn, if we can believe it, that a king of Spain had assisted Nebuchadnezzar in reducing Jerusalem, brought an enormous population into Spain, all from either the family of Dawid or at least from the tribe of Judah, and that the royal family resided first in Seville, then in Granada. We see the sons of King Dawid lived in Granada. The Negroes living in Negroland came from Grenada, and the Negroes living in Negro land were said to be Jews. As the following reference reads, and it reads, "The natives of Lam Lam, which is another name for Negro land, are Jews." And the reference goes on to refer to these Jews as Negroes. Now, let's go on to see what happened to these Negroes or these Jews living in Lam Lam or Negro land. And it reads, "The people of Sala or Bersia and the Tukur make predatory incursions into the land of Lam Lam and carry away its inhabitants captive to their own country, where they are purchased by the merchants who travel there, who transfer them to other countries." So we see the Negroes who were expelled from Grenada in 1492 fled south into Negro land or Lam Lam, and they were sold into slavery. The Spanish and Portuguese Jews were transported to Africa primarily in one of four ways. Method 1, they fled directly from Spain into Africa. Method 2, they fled from Spain to Portugal, then into Africa. Method 3, they were sent by the Portuguese to work as lancados. Method 4, they were sent by the Portuguese and Spanish governments to work as degradados or convict. The Brews that fled into Africa using methods 1 and 2 were free to observe their own religious practices. This, of course, did not sit well with the Portuguese government, who complained that, and I quote, "If they should go over to Africa, as it is probable they would if driven from Portugal, all hopes of their conversion would be lost." You see, the Portuguese, who were accustomed to working with the Yaya Negroes and who were accustomed to the money made off of the Brews, didn't want to let all that black money go. And the following reference reads, and it reads, "During the first 10 years, so many had quitted their native land that Emmanuel, perceiving the injury his kingdom suffered by the immigration of the most wealthy and most industrious of its population, ordered in 1507 the seizure of the persons and the confiscation of the property of all who should be found preparing to quit or leave the country. Yet so many ventured at all hazards to abandon the Portuguese soil that in 1524 King John III found it requisite or required to renew the edict, and the immigration must have continued, for Dom Sebastian repeated it in 1567 and again in 1573. The Portuguese wanted desperately to retain and convert their Negroes. However, those that had escaped into Africa were beyond their grasp. Or so it seemed. This is where the Brews sent into Africa by method 3, the lancados, becomes part of one of the most wicked, the most evil of plans of all times. Portugal would take the children of the sons of King David by violence, some no older than a newborn baby, and they would give these children over to wicked, to evil bishops and godparents, to rear them in the tenets of Christianity and the ways of the empire. And these children would be raised to be the right hand of the Portuguese Empire in Africa. Think about it. What happens to a child who is raised by your enemies to do the deeds of the enemy. And the following reference reads, the Castilian Jews who from poverty or any other cause had not departed at the limited time, the king ordered should be taken for slaves, according to the terms of their entrance, and distributed them to whomever asked for them. His inhumanity did not cease here. He tore young children from them and had them baptized, being at the time desirous of peopling his newly discovered acquisition on the coast of Africa, the island of St. Thomas. He sent them to it with the new governor, Alvera de Comina, so that being separated from their parents and marrying people in the island, they might become good Christians. Now, the Lancados are arguably the most dangerous to their fellow Brews in Africa. And it's because they were raised by their enemies. You can see this in this reference. They were despised by the Negroes of whom they are descendant. It was son against father, king against king, all by the crafty hand of the Portuguese. This is why they say Africans sold other Africans. Well, knowing full well they kidnapped the children and taught them to do their bidding. And unfortunately, the story goes from bad to worse. Over time, the Lancados and Degradados, the convicts sent by the Inquisition, who were sent to Africa to work on the royal farms, eventually these groups escape into the African population. Jobson described these Lancados under the name of Portugalese. I must break of a while from them, and acquaint you first of another sort of people we find dwelling, or rather lurking, among these Mandingos, only some certain way up the river. And these are, as they call themselves, Portugalese, and some few of them seem the same. Others of them are mulattoes, between black and white, but for the most part as black, as the natural inhabitants. They are scattered, some 2 or 3 dwellers in a place, and are all married, or rather keep with them the country black women, of whom they beget children. Howbeit they have amongst them neither church nor friar, nor any other religious order. It doth manifestly appear that they are such as have been banished or fled away from forth either of Portugal or the isles belonging unto that government. They doth generally employ themselves in buying such commodities the country affords. References show these Lancados who were sent to Africa marrying the Negroes who fled to Africa, specifically Negroland. As the following reference reads, and it reads, in Negritia or Negroland, the Portuguese intermarried widely with the indigenous people, and this was not discouraged by the authorities, but on the Gold Coast, they remained in their forts and trading posts on the whole part and separate from the natives. In Negritia or Negroland, the Portuguese entered into friendly relations with Negro princes upon terms of equality. But on the Gold Coast, the rule was for them to terrify the tribes into submission. And so, by taking African wives, the Negroes and the black Portuguese brews multiplied exceedingly in Africa. As the following reference reads, and it reads, many of the Portuguese men who colonized the Cape Verdean Islands migrated to nearby West Africa, where there were women, gold, ivory, food, and freedom from European kings and the Catholic Church. Most European immigrants lived in animist kingdoms along navigable rivers in the coastal rainforests, rather than in Muslim kingdoms. However, European men traded with Islamic merchants. Skipping ahead. The absence of Portuguese women in the tropics resulted in Portuguese men having intimate relationships with African girls and women and fathering thousands of mulatto children in the polygamous African culture. And the next reference reads, furthermore, there was confusion among Europeans in Africa because Portuguese law did not state the exact amount of time Cape Verde colonists could remain in West Africa before becoming illegal lancados. Although there is evidence that large numbers of Portuguese men and mulattoes lived in West Africa, the surviving data is insufficient to hazard a guess about their population. And so the sons of King Dawid multiplied and began to spread throughout West Africa. Before the first transatlantic slaves were sent from the west coast of Africa, the sons of King Dawid were well established. That is, until a series of historical events occurred that would change the world as we know it forever. First, King Manuel changed the trade policy for West Africa. Instead of using lancados to conduct the trade, he switched to something else. And as a result, he no longer needed the lancados. In fact, it meant that they were in the way. As the following reference reads, and it reads, things changed under King Manuel I. At the beginning of his reign, King Manuel did not lease trading rights with Gambia to Portuguese merchants or lancados, as he did with the rivers of Guinea and Sierra Leone. And so once King Emmanuel changed the way he made his money, he no longer needed the brews. In fact, they were in the way. And so on March 15th, 1518, the year the first slaves were shipped directly from Africa to America, he sent Benayah Gomez to orchestrate a massive manhunt of lancados. And he used the newly created law of King Manuel to do it. As the following reference reads, and it reads, King Manuel also had further threats in store for those lancados who were already on the coast in large numbers. On the 15th of March, 1518, he commissioned Benayah Gomez to sail to Guinea to superintend the removal of the lancados. And the next reference reads, and it reads, the crown at first encouraged the policy of having lancados in this region to facilitate commerce. Degradados sailed on the voyages of both Vasco da Gama and Pedro Alvarez Cabral. Da Gama took 12 degradados with him and probably several in Southeast Africa. Once in place, it became clear that the Portuguese crown was unable to control them. In an effort to keep these regions free of non-Portuguese commercial activities, in 1518, the crown reversed the policy of creating lancados and attempted to round them up. And the following reference reads, and it reads, finally, on March the 15th, 1518, he published a violent charter for which he sent a special ship commanded by Benayah Gomez to the ports of Guinea with the mission of getting all the Christian lancados who were there to board. Those who returned to Europe obeying this order would be forgiven as long as they paid the 10 cruzados along with half of their possessions or their farms. Those, however, who refused to embark and to leave the lands of Africa would be handed over to the African kings to be killed. The permit authorized Captain Benayah Gomez to offer to the indigenous chiefs all the gifts that were necessary to achieve the delivery or the murder of those lancados. It seems that these violent measures by monarch Venturoso were intended to reach Jews and foreign adventurers who spread freely along the African coast. And so the law that was written just a few years before against the Lancados was now fully enforced, and a worldwide decree was given to all of Portugal's allies in Africa and abroad. And the message was clear. Go, hunt them down, and bring them to me, no matter where they are or how long it's been. Find them. I hereby authorize everyone to hunt them, to take all their possessions. You have my permission. You can keep half of their possessions. Just bring the other half to me, and bring them to me in chains. Bring them to the judges of Guinea as prisoners. And to all those looking for slaves, you can now purchase them from Africa, from the judges of Guinea, for they are now under the judgment of natural death. That was a summary and a paraphrase of a law that's roughly 20 pages long. And with that being said, let's take a closer look at this law issued by King Mikha'el, who started the transatlantic slave trade and also started it from Africa. This is the law that's never taught in any institutions of learning. A copy of this law can be found in Portugal's National Library. And you can check the description of this video for a link of your very own copy of a non-translated copy. Now, this document is written in ancient Portuguese, which doesn't translate well in Google Translate. So with that being said, we were blessed to have the help of a kind, helpful sister, Ema, professor, perfectionist, along with a professional translation company to review and certify these translations. And with that said, here are a few important excerpts from our translations. First, the law starts by stating the people of whom it is for. Researchers agree this law was written specifically for Lancados. We see this in books from the 1900s. We also note that this law describes the targeted people as being those sent and those who go to Guinea. This lines up with the groups of King Dawood's sons that we reviewed earlier in this video. Some were sent by way of the expulsion edicts, and some fled on their own. Those are the ones who go to Guinea without the king's consent. So hopefully you can see this is just one big story that started in Spain and Portugal and made its way into Africa. As the following reference reads, and it reads, regarding those who are sent to Elmina or those who go to Guinea without the permission from the king, as well as those who do not comply with the rules. Here's a copy of the notes from one of our translators. These points have been validated using additional books and references. And it says, the fifth book is about the punishments or the ordinances for those that, one, went to Guinea with the consent of the king, but didn't keep his rules. Main crimes against the kingdom. They didn't keep the Catholic faith, they didn't pay taxes, or they had multiple wives. Point two, those that were sent to Guinea as punishment for not converting to the Catholic faith, so they couldn't go back by their own will. They were required good behavior, but they would often incur the same crimes. Reparations were paid to the kingdom in silver, gold, merchandise, and labor. The law then goes on to summarize the reason for the law, and it reads, "The ordinations and the laws which have thus far been created for things related to our town, Elmina, and for things related to Guinea, are not going well and are not being declared like they should. Therefore, our service needs to step up and help preserve the enforcement of laws, since we are suffering quite a bit. If we take action, such attitude will be useful to all our kingdoms and all the governors and landlords, and also help with the excommunications that have been going on in many kingdoms. However, many laws have not even been created or confirmed yet. This situation is generating a lot of confusion and questions. We need to show that we have the ability to govern properly. The laws that talk about our mind and what we managed to take away from Guinea were idealized by my uncle, King Alfonso, as well as my cousin, King John. Something which they should take a lot of credit for. In the following paragraph, we will write what the law must be. The law basically states that these people could not buy or sell in West Africa without first having written permission from Portugal. And if the Lancados or sons of King Dawid broke this law, the sentence involved turning over the lawbreakers to the Portuguese judges and being sentenced to natural death, aka slavery. As the following reference reads, and it reads, "By law, we are ordering all people not to go out of our ships or go to other lands and seas or places that we have conquered, with the objective of waging war or stealing things in our name. Such things should not be done without our permission. The person who does this shall be killed as punishment, which is natural death and slavery. The person who does this can also lose all their belongings and goods. This punishment also goes to all those people who attempt to steal things from our ships, like machinery, mechanical parts, or artillery. Those who are found wandering around other seas shall face the consequences. However, those who were found but have not done anything wrong shall be spared." We need to know all the information we can about the occurrences so we can order the correct punishment to be applied or not. "And by this law of ours, we give place and license to all captains, pilots, masters, or landlords of our ships, or our keepers, or any other person of our kingdom, or landlords that those parts for their privilege, or by our permission they go. We here state the permission to go to those places, and every ship, land, seas that they find, they are allowed to take them and bring all the people they find as prisoners. And as a message to those who defile us will be delivered to our judge of Guinea, which is the west coast of Africa. And by him be judged. Half of what they had will be divided by those who brought them, and the other half will be ours." And last but not least, the same law that authorized the taking of these people also authorized for the first time the taking of slaves from the west coast of Africa. As the following reference reads, and it reads, "We are also certified to give permission to the captains of our ships and to order them to go to Elmina or to Sao Tome and to Principe Islands to trade and to negotiate. However, a trip to Sao Tome and Principe Islands should be taken when it is really necessary. There, our ships might have the possibility of buying many slaves to bring to our kingdoms, as well as other things that can be purchased." Ladies and gentlemen, this law written by the King of Portugal is the actual law that started the transatlantic slave trade from Africa to the Americas. It is a law written specifically for Lancados, who are Black Portuguese, who are Spanish Jews, who are Negroes, who are the sons of King Dawid. For the first time in modern history, we have uncovered the greatest secret of the transatlantic slave trade. This is history in the making. Well, House of Judah, a major piece of your history has now been restored back unto you. It is now time to turn back to the Most High Yah and to once again be Israel. And let Abba Yah be your Elohim, for Yahuwah is his name. This is just the beginning, family. There's much, much more to this. We must now prepare for our journey home. And with that, this lesson has come to an end. A special thank you for all those who continue to lift me and my family up in your thoughts and prayers. And a big thank you to those who donate to help make these videos possible. I thank you on behalf of all the viewers who are enlightened by these videos. And thank you to all those who share these videos with family and friends. Well, family, stay blessed, Israel, and prepare for the long journey home. Shalom.